Hello and welcome to Tutorial CU. My name is Yannick and in this video we will talk about stress testing your C# and .NET applications. Now, stress testing is the process of putting software under heavy loads to identify performance issues and bottlenecks. In this video, we will use the nbench library, which you can see right here, nbench, to create a stress testing scenario. So if you want to follow along, simply install the nbench NuGet package. I already have it installed and you're good to go. Now, our console application right here is just like an e-commerce store. We have a shop class. Inside here we have a method for checkout and we basically just sum up the prices of the products that we want to check out. This is our main functionality, so you can tell that we have a product here. Product consists of name and price. Now for our stress test, we now want to create a separate project and then stress test our shop class, or to be more specific, our checkout method here. Let's see, for example, if we can run it 1,000,000 times within 2 seconds. Okay, so first of all, let's go to our solution on the right side and let's add a new project right here. Let's pick a console application and let's call it stress tests. There we go. Let's hit next and create. And inside of this new project, I will create a new class. So on the right side, you can see 2 projects, stress tests and stress test tutorial CU. This is our main project, right? So I will pick the new one, which is that one above, then right click on it and then add a new class to it. Now I want to call that class shop stress tests. So shop stress tests and then hit add. Now next up, we want to add the project reference. So right click on your new project, stress tests, let's hit add and then add a project reference to our main program so that we can access the classes like the shop class and its methods. Now let's remove all of our using directives here and let's start using nbench. Let's create a counter. So write down counter and let's call it test counter and we will increment that with every operation. You will see that just in a second, and we will need a shop for sure. So write down shop here. So shop, let's call it shop. There we go. Now, next up, let's create a public void, a method for the setup of the test right here. So we take the benchmark context, let's call it context. And inside there, we can set the shop to be a new one. So a new shop. And then we set the test counter for this specific test to be context.getCounter. We will configure that one just in a second, the checkout counter. There we go. Now we need to assign an attribute here to make it working, which is called performance setup, or in short perf setup. There we go. Awesome. So now we have our setup method. So now we can continue with our benchmark method itself. Oh, and by the way, if you're looking for a way to massively boost your C# skills, make sure to check out our C# Progress Academy, which is a self-paced online course that teaches you ASP.NET Core, Angular, unit testing, and even C# software design patterns in depth. We offer a 14-day money-back guarantee, and I'm absolutely sure that this is the fastest way on how you can progress as a C# developer. So you can find the link in the description below or popping up right now at the top right corner. Awesome. So let's move on. Let's set up our benchmark method. So first of all, we create a public void again, public void checkout test like this, or we can for sure write it uppercase. So checkout test. Then we take our shop and call the checkout method. Now inside here, we will create a new product array with just a single item. Absolutely no problem. We will just configure any product, let's say any speakers. It's really not about that, and it like the cost of that speakers is like $1,000, something like that. And then we simply take our test counter dot increment so that we know how many operations we have already performed in that test. So we will simply increment that counter right here. Now we have to configure that method a little bit more. So let's go ahead and let's add some attributes here. The first one is performance benchmark, so perf benchmark. Add parentheses, and you can now add a description. I will just keep it short, so I will not add a description, but we will add the number of iterations, and I will explain what that is just in a second. Let's set it to 5. Then we will set the run mode. We set the run mode to be run mode.throughput. Let's take a look at that definition right here. Run a benchmark for a specified duration, best for small benchmark designed to measure throughput for example, the operations per second. And that's exactly what we want. We want to test for operations per second. Let's say we want to run this operation here, the checkout method, like 1 million times or 10 million times per second. Just an example. Now, next up, we can set the runtime milliseconds, which is basically just what I said, like how long should one single iteration take. As I said, I will just explain exactly what we're testing in a second. And then finally, we can set the test mode equals to test mode.test to get the final log and information that we're looking for. Awesome. What happens here is that the entire benchmark test will run for 2 seconds, because 2 seconds are 2000 milliseconds for sure, and it will run 5 times within those 2000 milliseconds. This is why we have 5 iterations. Now pay attention, that doesn't mean that the checkout test method right here will only get called 5 times. No, it will run as often as possible. Now let's set some assertions. For that I will just remove that here so that we can see a little bit more of the screen, and then we'll write down a new attribute which is called counter throughput assertion. Inside here we can set the counter name, so checkout counter. Make sure that it points to line 16 here, checkout counter, right? Now we want to say that it must be dot greater than, I will explain it in a second, let's say 11 million. It basically means that we assert that our checkout operation right here can run more than 11 million times per second. So if I hover above that counter throughput assertion attribute, you can see number of operations per second. So just as in test-driven development, we assert, right? And in this case, we assert that this operation can run more than 11 million times per second. Great. Now I want to show you that you can add another assertion. So you are not limited to one. You can, for example, take the memory assertion so that we can simply specify like memory metric dot total bytes allocated, right? Must be less than or equal to bytes constants. There we go. Byte constants dot, let's say 64 kilobytes. So the entire benchmark should not take more than 64 kilobyte in allocated memory. So let's take a look here. Performs an assertion against memory counters collected over the course of the benchmark. Now that's it basically, but to just really make it clean, we can write a clean up method right here. Here for your own cases, you can dispose your stuff, right? So if you need that, you can do this here. And for that, we also add an attribute which is called perf cleanup. There we go. Very cool. Now let's execute that test. First of all, go to the project and go into the program.cs because we have to configure it to actually start. So go into the main program in the main method here, and let's simply return nbench_runner.run in our program. Great. Now it returns an integer, so change the void to integer here. Great. Let's build this project. So right click on stress tests. Simply click on build. You can see it succeeded. And if we now want to start the test, you can simply go to the binary folder and well double click on that one to start the test. Or we can for sure simply pick the correct project here. So make sure to select the correct one. For me it's stress tests, not the other project. So not that one with tutorial CU. For me it's stress tests. And if I now start the test, you can see the console popping up. Here is our test. It's starting right now. It will warm up and it has 5 iterations. So it will 5 times warm up and then run 5 times. So you can see begin run. There we go. And now we have our final outcome, our assertions. You can see we expected, first of all, we can see that it has passed for one assertion, right? So pass is success and fail is for sure fail. So checkout counter must be greater than 11 million, right? So this worked because we were able to run this operation 14 million times in a second, which is awesome, right? Did you expect that number? Now for our second assertion, it did not pass, it has failed. Total bytes allocated must be less than like 65k bytes, but the actual value was like above 1 million. So our first assertion has passed because we run it 14 million times, and we said it has to be at least 11 million times, but our second assertion failed because more memory got allocated than we have specified it in the test to be a success. Alrighty, and that's it for this video. So this is how you can perform stress tests in your C# and .NET applications. I hope you liked that video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so that you no longer miss any upcoming videos, and definitely check out our C# Progress Academy. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you back in the next video.